The copper thread, the open air, the static hum of everywhere. To catch the wind and pull it down will only make the music drown. Alchemists spoke of the vas hermeticum, the hermetic seal. They knew that for the great work to succeed, the vessel had to be completely closed off from the outside world. If the ambient air, the dust, or the temperature of the room was allowed to penetrate the glass, the reaction would fail. The transformation requires absolute isolation from the environment. You cannot hear your own voice if your mind is an antenna for the world. Welcome back to the Simple Tapes. This is your friend Vinny. It is a sunny Sunday here in the Rust Belt. I'm sitting in my basement with a bottle of Red Pop on my side. I got an old Fender Strat was resting on my lap, and I just plugged it into a small practice amplifier that I keep in the corner of the basement. I didn't even strum a chord yet, but the amp is already buzzing. I can hear the hum of the fluorescent basement lights, the cycling of the mini fridge, and if I turn the volume up, I can actually hear the faint ghostly chatter of a local AM sports radio station. The guitar isn't making that sound. The cheap, thin cable connecting the guitar to the amp is picking it all up right out of the air. Today we are looking at signal to noise. We are talking about what happens when you walk through the world unshielded and why you are constantly amplifying interference that doesn't belong to you. We aren't talking about who you are bolted to today. This isn't about the people you work with. This is about the air you walk through. In audio engineering, any length of copper wire acts as an antenna. It absorbs electromagnetic interference, EMI, and radio frequency interference, RFI, from the environment. An amplifier is a dumb machine. It doesn't know the difference between the beautiful signal of a guitar string and the garbage noise of dead radio air. It takes whatever the cable catches and makes it louder. To fix this, audio engineers use a shielded cable. Inside a shielded cable, the main signal wire is surrounded by a woven tube of metal braid. That braid intercepts the electromagnetic noise from the room and physically sends it into the ground before it can ever touch the core signal. In the field, your attention is the copper wire. The world is saturated with EMI and RFI, the 24-hour news cycle, the ambient outrage of the internet, the digital static of 100 different feeds. If you do not have a shield, your mind acts as a cheap antenna. You end up vibrating with the general panic of the environment, and you amplify noise that has nothing to do with your actual life. I knew a podcaster who spent thousands of dollars building a home recording studio. He bought high-end studio monitors, a boutique microphone, and an expensive interface. But when he hooked it all up and hit record, there was a relentless grinding hum in the background of every track. He lost his mind trying to fix it. He thought his house's electrical grid was bad. He thought the expensive microphone was defective. He even started doubting his own voice, spending hours trying to digitally equalize the noise out of his recording, destroying the warmth of his tracks in the process. Finally, a veteran sound engineer came over, looked behind his desk, checked out all the cables and everything, and guess what? He pulled out the $5 unshielded bargain bin cable that my friend had used to connect the mic to the board. The engineer swapped it for a heavy, thickly braided shielded cable, and lo and behold, the hum vanished instantly. The problem was never the source, and it was never the speaker. The problem was that his transmission line, the cable or the antenna, was wide open to the world. In my own life, I spent years walking around unshielded. As an adjunct instructor, I thought it was my job to be plugged into everything. I absorbed the faculty gossip, the administrative panic, the political static on my phone feed, and the ambient anxiety of my students in a lecture. I thought I was being informed. I thought I was keeping up with the times, being empathetic. But in reality, I was just being a cheap antenna. I was coming home exhausted, vibrating with a low-level anger and stress that didn't even belong to me. My actual signal, my teaching, my writing, the quiet reality of my own life was completely drowned out by the hum of the world's refrigerator. The dead radio air permeating the world around us. I had to learn how to build my own hermetic seal, so to speak. I had to weave a braided shield around my attention. I did this starting with deactivating all my social media accounts, eating my lunches in my office, away from the faculty break room, and detaching from the classroom mood, letting go of any thoughts about how they perceived the lecture content of the day once the lecture was over. It felt ignorant at first. It felt like I was falling behind, deliberately tuning out the important noise of the crowd. But I realized that if you let the world into the wire, you will never hear the music. A man or woman who leaves his or her mind open to every frequency will eventually forget the sound of his or her own voice. So here's my challenge to you this week. Ground the braid. Identify one area of your life where you are picking up hum, a static hum. A place where you are absorbing the ambient stress, outrage, or panic of the environment. This week, install a shield. Unplug from the source of the static. Leave the phone in the other room when you work. Walk away from the break room when the gossip starts. Turn off the notifications from your news apps. Do not try to argue with the noise, and do not try to fix the fluorescent light. Just put a thick rubber wall between it and your core wire. Protect the signal, ground the rest. Clarity is a grounded wire. Trust the shield. And hey, one small thing before you go. I reached over and unplugged that cheap thin cable from the amplifier, and the buzzing stopped. I dug into my old gig bag and pulled out a heavy professional instrument cable, one that I usually use and reserve for a podcast like this. It is almost as thick as a garden hose, wrapped in a dense layer of rubber and woven copper shielding. I plugged it into the guitar and then into the amp. I turned the volume up. Nothing. Just absolute, heavy, dead silence. The amp was live. The tubes were warm, but it wasn't picking up a single piece of garbage static from the room. It was perfectly quiet, just waiting for me to finally strike a chord. If your life is full of static, check your cable before you blame the instrument. Till next week, this is your friend Vinny. Keep it ordinary, keep it simple.